People are crossing borders in record numbers. War, geopolitical instability, and economic displacement have pushed global migration to scales rarely seen in modern history. But while people move globally, they settle locally, meaning this massive geopolitical shift ultimately lands in a very specific place, the local public school. Take Canada, for example, where 1 in 5 citizens is now a visible minority. Suburban schools are absorbing sudden, massive influxes of newcomer students, sometimes seeing English language learner populations spike by 400% in just 18 months. There is a deep structural disconnect here. Federal policies dictate the immigration pathways and resettlement patterns, but the actual grinding work of integration falls directly onto provincial classrooms. Putting diverse students into a classroom doesn't create social cohesion or academic success on its own. Diversity is simply a demographic fact. True inclusion requires an active, engineered process. Many of these immigrant and refugee students arrive carrying profound, invisible burdens. They are navigating severe psychosocial stress, the trauma of escaping conflict zones, and a deeply shattered trust in adult authority. They step into classrooms led by a mainstream teaching force that is often predominantly white, middle class, and structurally unequipped for this reality. Most conventional teacher education programs do not offer specialized training in trauma-sensitive, cross-cultural pedagogy. When default educational systems buckle under this demographic weight, isolated, well-meaning teachers are thrust onto the front lines. They are left to manage the complex psychological and academic integration of an entire generation without a systemic playbook. Put yourself in the shoes of a teacher facing an unbudgeted 400% influx of English language learners. The environment quickly fractures into 3 immediate crises. First is the scaffolding dilemma. You have a linguistically split classroom. You have to adapt complex curriculum materials for non-English speakers so they don't fall into academic isolation. But if you dilute the cognitive challenge, you face immediate blowback from parents who fear the academic standards are slipping. Second is the hidden curriculum. Outside the strict lesson plans, peer relationships fracture. This rarely looks like physical fights. It manifests as sophisticated relational bullying, social exclusion, and cultural microaggressions directed at newcomers in the hallways and cafeterias. Third is the intercultural disconnect. High-stakes parent-teacher interviews devolve into structural confrontations. Differing cultural expectations about discipline, institutional authority, and grading benchmarks turn a simple progress report into a deeply tense standoff. Faced with these pressures, relying on heroic individual efforts or zero-tolerance discipline breaks down. Issuing punitive suspensions to traumatized students drives resentment underground, deepening the very fractures the school is trying to heal. To actually solve these fractures, schools need to move past abstract academic theories and deploy an active, cross-sector schematic. This diagram shows the theoretical framework for building welcoming and inclusive schools. It's a structured 7-node blueprint designed specifically for frontline educators managing rapid demographic shifts. The framework addresses the scaffolding dilemma through targeted professional development and by actively empowering newcomer students. Instead of viewing language barriers as a deficit, teachers are trained to leverage the cross-cultural problem-solving skills these students already possess. To neutralize relational bullying, the framework relies on an open and inclusive process. This moves schools away from zero-tolerance suspensions, replacing them with trauma-informed restorative justice strategies that repair peer relationships while maintaining institutional order. Parent-teacher conflicts are resolved through community engagement. This specifically means looping in external settlement service agencies, workers who provide cultural translation and help transform an adversarial meeting into a shared community-backed support plan. But none of this works in a vacuum. Without deliberate leadership engagement and a clearly articulated shared vision acting as the gravitational center, these individual tactics will fail to create a sustainable institutional culture. When this blueprint is properly executed, you get a culturally competent community. Belonging is no longer left to chance. It is actively engineered into the daily operations of the school. The stakes here are incredibly high. For immigrant and refugee children, brief initial years of transition are biologically and sociologically critical. This brief window dictates how they form their cross-cultural identities and establish their baseline trust in their new society. These students arrive with highly valuable assets, immense psychological resilience, multilingual capabilities, and a proven ability to navigate high-stress, ambiguous environments. This systemic framework forges a generation of resilient, multilingual citizens uniquely equipped to lead in a globally interconnected world.